Okay, with Joe Bartone, my movie starring Paul Dano is the feature script, feature film. I played the Wild Sound Festival. So, but before we get to your film, because it's great and like, I love the opening scene and it seems to be doing very well at the festival circuit. Paul Dano is in the news.
I know
Like,
that was
yeah,
I wish that happened just a little bit later when I was negotiating distribution, but yeah, that was a big story with Quentin Tarantino. Sure.
yeah. He hasn't spoken about it. He has not come out and said anything.
Tarantino lives in Germany now. He's been living in Israel forever. Now he lives in Germany. I don't, unless Mr. Tarantino wants to come to Hollywood to make another movie, I don't know how much he's in the game at this much, other than so it's like he's becoming an old man yelling at young kids to get off the lawn, and then that's kind of sad for him. He doesn't even need to bother with those things, but you know, it doesn't
No,
hurt Paul
but it's
Dano, that's
interesting.
for
Yeah.
sure. You know,
No, but it's interesting that like a legendary director kind of calls out actors. Like, it wasn't just him, but it was like he was the. I guess he just like the next day I saw the blog. Funny enough that someone sent it to me. I'm like, that's weird. That why would he call out Paul Dano? And then all of a sudden, the next day on social media, it was like everywhere.
sure.
Everywhere I
And he also
was,
called out Woody Harrelson,
it,
and there was somebody else too that
it
he
was
don't. Oh,
Owen Wilson,
oh,
and
well, that was Owen Wilson, and it was the guy from
Scream.
SPLC Punk, right?
Yeah, and the guy from
Math,
Scream.
yeah, Matthew Woodard. Oh, no,
Matthew
Matthew
Lillard. Yeah. Yeah.
Lillard. Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, I love Matthew Lillard. So, the fact I'm kind of happy because he called out three of my favorite character actors. I was like, oh, well, I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Which
anyway,
is what basically the point is that it's something you just don't do, right? Like it's like everybody's kind of working hard, they're doing their thing, and like, why would you
well,
judge?
yeah, and you bring up a really good point, and it's something I tell a lot of other filmmakers and people in the
Yeah.
film industry. Um, every time that you spend time talking shit about someone else's film or their acting or their talent or their abilities, you're taking away precious time that you could be spending talking about someone or something that you really like that no one's seen or heard of yet. And being a negative person online or giving negative reviews to things doesn't help the filmmaker. It doesn't help the film industry. It really doesn't help the audience. It only helps you. And it's a very selfish position. Now, I'm not against criticisms of films that are in wide release where that's a different context. But when you're talking about independent film,
Yeah.
it doesn't help anybody. You'd rather spend your time either just shutting up or talking about something really good that you saw that maybe someone else hasn't seen yet.
Yeah. Like it's judgment is easy, basically. Like when you're in that position, it's yeah. It was just the reason why I brought it up is that because it was just such a like it's like he's in the news now still. People that's his the name Paul Dano comes up, that's what we're thinking about,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And you have
Yeah.
him in the title of your film. So it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
People
that
always ask me why did I write a movie called My Movie starring Paul Dano?
that was my
In
next
fact,
question. So yeah,
yeah,
go
there you
ahead.
go. In fact, a lot of my filmmaker friends, were angry with me. Um, so the original concept was I was upset because distributors won't take my films seriously because I do not have name talent in my movies. And I understand that entirely. Because
Okay.
once the film is made, it becomes a commodity, like a paperclip or a flashlight. And the only thing that really they do not have the time or the interest to really care about a movie. They want to package it and aggregate it as quickly and easily as possible. So a film without a named talent has no value in that realm. And I was so upset by this realization that as kind of a giant fuck you to the film industry, I'm going to put a name talent in my title. And that was actually the first thought I had when I was developing my movie starring Paul Dano. And I chose Paul Dano particularly because at the time, this is 2024 in January. Um, I he was one of those names that a lot of people have heard of, but not everyone knew who he was. And so it was kind of
Yeah,
like, wow, did Joe really get Paul Dano in his movie? And in full disclosure, we actually did shoot we shot the film and we sent it to his management and we sent it to WME. And we made an offer for Mr. Dano. And it was everything we had, and they said no, and that's fine. But they did wish us very the best of luck, and so we have no problems with it legally speaking. So
yeah.
which is really great because we don't have any problems in that end.
But I wonder if
But it would have
he
been nice to
actually
have Paul in the
like
movie,
if
you
he
know?
actually knows about that, or if they just intercepted it.
No,
Yeah,
no. I'll tell you the reason why. Because the management makes 10%, right? So
yeah,
if you offer Paul Dano $50,000 for 1 hour of his time, that's only $5,000 for the manager. And that's not enough to drive their interest. So if you want to make an offer for something like that, you've got to start on $50,000 because the manager doesn't want to bother with a $5,000
yeah.
pay.
So you have to go to him directly. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you
Well,
can, yeah, yeah.
yes, if you can, if he's
Yeah.
a friend, yeah, absolutely.
Because it
Um,
reminded, I'm sure you've been told this before, but it reminded me of Kaufman's script,
oh,
John
Charlie's, yes,
Malkovich,
Charlie
right?
Kaufman.
Yeah. And
That
he
was
wrote the script kind of like, almost like kind of how you described it in a sense. It's like, I'm going to do
being
this
John
crazy,
Malkovich.
yeah, being John Malkovich, but he was kind of like the Paul Dano of his time, right? Where like he was
Yes,
semi-famous, but he was that
semi-famous.
guy. Like, who's that guy? And like, he wasn't really known, and he wasn't Tom Cruise, I guess, right? So,
No, and the story I had read was that Charlie Kaufman had some success as a TV writer, but that script floated around Hollywood for a year. And
yeah,
what happened was his manager was at a party. Uh, John Malkovich's manager at a party and was like, "Oh my God, you must have like died when you heard about that crazy script written about you." And Malkovich said, "I never even heard of this thing." And he said, "Oh no, it exists. It's really it had been over a year just sitting in nothing in like the bin." And it
yeah.
was just by accident that Malkovich actually got that script.
There you go, right? And
Yeah.
because he's such a he's so perfect, right, in that
Oh,
film, right?
sure.
So
Yeah.
and so it reminded me of that, where like it's like, oh, you're gonna throw that that kind of that name that who is that? I know the name, but I don't know. Like talking about the average person, right?
Sure.
So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's he been in? He's been in what he's been in that movie, like he like you know what I mean? So yeah,
John Malkovich was in, yes, he was the character actor in everyone's favorite film,
yeah,
you know.
exactly, yeah.
Um, though I
So
really liked him in Of Mice and Men. It was brilliant. But if you haven't seen that, you should
yeah, Gary
watch it.
Sinise, right? Like he
Gary Sinise,
yeah.
that's such a terrific adaptation of that film. You know,
They were like
that's
part of the Chicago, like kind of like with Steppenwolf, right? They were the Steppenwolf
yes.
boys,
Oh my
right? So
God.
yeah,
Yeah, you know your stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so Laurie, I think Laurie Metcalf was in there, like a bunch of them, right? So back in the day, right? So
Mhm.
all right, so let's talk about your film. Really stylized. I love the opening shot. The opening shot grabs the audience
Well, thank
right
you.
away, right?
That's very
And it's
that's
just
very Fellini-esque, is what that was. You know,
100%. But it's modern though.
yeah.
It's a modern shot, right? Like it's like this is this kid in his 20s. That's how they do things, right?
Yeah, it's right, right. Well, the
Yeah.
idea of them walking up the hill, the opening scene is the director is talking to the camera. He's being interviewed for a documentary, and behind him, the cast is walking up, and it for me, it was kind of like it was a lot like the end of Eight and a Half, where the director and there's a giant circus scene where people are marching around, and I was really into that scene, so I try to use that visual, and I think the cast, they're walking up in costume, they're walking up this trudging up this horrible hill, they're
Yeah.
complaining, it's hot, they're dusty and they're miserable, and he's trying so desperately to like uh, show his excitement and his love of passion of filmmaking when all around him are people that just hate being there and are frustrated. So
And
that's
then
the
you
opening.
and then you stylize like it's like there's some great shots in there, like where you kind of like you're doing the black and white and the color. I'm just being general,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you got he jumps out of the in the beginning of the film, he jumps out of the box of the president, and then it's
Oh
like
yeah.
that flip where like she's had the video camera, and then it's like a
Sure.
still. that's some really really creative, really interesting
Well,
stuff.
the
And it's
joke
like,
behind that is
yeah,
that in LA, people will rent out their living rooms as to subletters.
okay,
So that's no one I know lives in a box, but the idea of it came that like people will rent any space because there's such a housing shortage here, and you
yeah,
know that they would pay to live in a cardboard box, and
yeah.
that's where that idea came from.
And I'm sure some of them are like literally are, right? They're just probably living in like
Probably,
a tiny room, right?
probably living in a box.
Yeah.
Probably true.
Yeah, it was,
Um, we used these old lenses. Just now it's driving me nuts. But we used a lot of these old lenses for the black and white stuff. These old 60 millimeter lenses, and then we used whatever red cameras we had available for the color stuff. And I think when you don't, we had very little money to make this movie.
yeah,
And so when you and as an artist, I've always been really interested in how the limitations that I'm given can spark creativity. Because I falsely grew up under the impression, both as a musician and later as a filmmaker, that I needed money to do my vision.
yeah.
And and I realized that was just a trap, a capitalist trap that I had been fed since I was a child. And I decided now that maybe that entire premise is just bullshit. Maybe the idea is you lean into the fact you have no money
Yeah,
and use that as an opportunity to reach for more creative ways of expressing a story.
100%. And so this is your first feature that you've done?
Second feature.
Okay, because yeah, in your bio is okay. You said that you're also my debut. Like, so all the cast and crew were like everybody's kind of working on their thought. Like, I'm just trying to remember the sentence,
No,
but
it's okay.
basically,
It's good. In fact, a lot of the themes in this feature I just did were based in mishaps that happened making my first feature. So I made a bunch of
oh,
shorts. I did
gotcha.
some
That's
music
what I. Yeah,
videos.
okay. That's okay.
There
You're
you go.
gotcha.
Right,
So
right.
the
And
inspiration of the second feature was your first feature.
yeah, well, yeah, and also, I had seen a documentary film called Blank City, which you would love. It's the story of the no wave film movement in New York between 78 and 82. It's Jim Jarmusch, Steve Buscemi, John Waters, Deborah Harry, etc. John Lurie, and this is Michelle Basquiat. Um, and how they would just steal cameras and steal film and just shoot now. And I thought it'd be really fun. And what if I just, I've worked in film for a long time. I have over like 250 credits as a sound mixer and post guy. Um, wouldn't it be interesting to just dive headlong into a feature film and with even an incomplete script to start with, incomplete everything, and just go full steam and see what happens and use that freedom and that insanity to just shoot it now and get that immediacy, that energy going into a film. And I never expected my movie starring Paul Dano to be as good as it came out. My editor and I were very pleased to find out it actually edited much better than we thought it was going to. But because it was never the intention. The intention was to have fun and to, you know, forth this great energy and improvisation and any kind of zany idea that came along. And then
Yeah.
and then when we got into editing, it's like, wow, this is really amazing. And that's when I started adding a lot of art to it. I do a lot of digital drawing and stuff. I draw it by hand, but through a tablet and a lot of like we did animations and all kinds of things, anything we could think of, because we were free. We didn't because of the way that the film was constructed. It was whatever passion that any actor or crew member or filmmaker had, we could add that passion to the film. So
That's really cool because yeah, there's some really because you talked about like not much of a budget, but there's some really amazing art direction that serves your story, meaning that
thanks.
it all everything kind of fits together, right? Like, and
Can I,
there's
can
all
I tell you
these
that we
subtle.
only spent $35,000 to shoot that film?
Yeah, I that's
That,
it's
that was
crazy, but it's like I see it though, but it's like I see
very
the
very small amount of money. Yeah.
even the car, like there's like this is where like this is his car, like all the it's like you know what I mean? There's all junk and
Sure.
like right?
That's
Like
right.
I love the typewriter touch, but basically, but it's like you can tell that there's thought to every shot, I guess.
Right. And one of the problems we did have, because I mean, we only had 10 days to shoot, and which wasn't enough time. So I had to sacrifice a lot of like establishing shots and things. And so in post, I would draw them. And the first thing I did was I would run around town and did film things on my iPhone for establishing shots. And then I went back and I painted them in. I hand painted those shots in so they could have some of these kind of neat chapters that divided things. And then we went with the chapter division idea, which I think Jim Jarmusch does in like Ghost Dog. Is that the name of the name
Yeah,
movie? Is that
yeah.
yeah. And I really like the chapter division idea for a film. I think it helps people kind of get a pause and a sense of where they are in the story. And there was one scene that I wasn't really happy with the way it looked, but I needed the scene. And Gavin and I said, well, it's really lit pretty badly, Joe. It looks like a 90s sitcom. And I said, Gavin, my editor, I said, that's it. Let's lean into that. Let's add a laugh track. Let's fuck with the color. Let's make
Yeah.
it look like a 90s sitcom. And we did a whole intro for it. So yeah, again, it's the idea of trying to find a limitation and then using it as a strength. So anytime that like I came up with something that would defeat the average artist, I'm like, no, no, this is an opportunity, and then we would move forward with that.
All that said, tone-wise, it's all got to fit together. It's all got to
Yes,
flow, right?
yeah, it's true.
So,
That's true, and I
yeah.
think that just comes from directing. I think like that's part of what that is. So yeah, I guess that would be my part. Not to talk about myself, but yeah, that would be it. And then the selfies, there was a reason for those. We had a lot of because a lot of my friends would do auditions, self-tape auditions,
Yeah.
and like various projects. And I always wondered about those. I always thought, this is a new part of the culture. It's people doing self-tape auditions, people living on TikTok, people looking at their phones all the time. And I said, I wanted the film to have aspects of that too. Everyone's cramming for a few minutes of attention, their 15 minutes of fame on their vertical. So I wanted those in the movie too, which I had initially my wife, who was a former executive at Warner Brothers, she's like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, Joe. But once she saw them, she's like, oh my gosh, this actually works. These crazy interstitials of people desperately trying to get on. And how I did that was I had a worldwide cast. I said, look, if you submit me a self-tape audition for this film, I promise you, I will do my best to get it in the film. And we used almost all of them. And I think they're really funny and they're really fresh and they have a lot of heart and they fit the narrative perfectly. So
So people like I guess post COVID or during COVID, they couldn't go to auditions, so they would self-tape, and now they it seems to be the trend now. Like everybody,
yes, everything
they
is
don't go
self-tape.
to auditions anymore because it's time, money, travel. So everybody
Well,
they want actors to bring in to self-tape their auditions.
which is a shame
Yeah,
because I feel bad for actors. I couldn't even imagine having to do that. It seems, it just seems so
yeah.
cold not to do that. But
Well,
but
that said,
that's
they don't have to be in LA, right? They could say they're in
well,
LA and then just
that's
yeah.
that's a plus. But I think it's harder.
Yeah.
I mean, an actor without an audience is tough. It's like a musician without an audience. It's I it be, here's the thing, like and this is a really important thing I've been learning about filmmaking is the director makes the movie, the talent makes the movie, the editor makes the movie, but also the audience does. The audience tells the story because the audience can look at an image or a series of images and put together in their own mind how that relates to their lives.
Mhm.
So they're telling their own story within the story,
100%. Yeah.
right? So if you're auditioning just to your phone and there's no one else in the room, and if you're not lucky enough to have someone else in the room, yeah, I would be afraid that you would lose something in that process. So I do miss in-person uh, auditions, but I understand it and I understand the listen. The nice thing is, hey, Elsa Kennedy, who was in my first movies, the lead actress, she was from Boston, Boston, Massachusetts. She'd never been in a movie before, and she sent her self-tape in, and she got the lead role. So those
Wow.
stories do happen. So
I'm sure you got lots of like female auditions. I'm sure you got lots of what, just out of curiosity, quick segue, what someone who never acted before, what stood out in her self-tape audition?
because I grew up in a really poor part of Providence where there was a lot of smart kids and great kids, but there's a lot of kids that, had to sell drugs or were small-time crooks or just kind of shifty people that were all in my hood. And I was always interested. I'm always observing that world, and I realized that a lot of those people uh, were just struggling to get by. They were just trying to survive, and this was the only way they could figure out how to survive, good, bad, or indifferent, bad moral choice or not.
Sure.
And there's an honesty in that dishonesty. There's something true about their human spirit. And since Elsa, when I saw Elsa, that's the one thing she really encapsulated. She was a woman who from the friggin' streets of Boston, she, playing guitar on sidewalks to, feed herself. She was a musician when I worked with her there. And she had that truth, that honesty. And quite frankly, I love working with trained actors, and I've worked with a lot of trained actors and can recommend them. But more often than not, if I can find a rock musician or someone just from the hood to take on a role, they generally do a lot better. Look what happened with Euphoria, right? The poor kid Angus who died. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, he was from Boston. He was a real drug dealer from Boston. Never acted
Yeah.
before, but he lit up that camera,
That's
because
what they
that
did on
that
The
I
Wire
really,
too, right? In
oh yeah,
Baltimore. Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people in the streets they got in. Like the one person who played the girl, like the girl hurt him, man. She was a dealer. She never
sure.
acted before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and as a filmmaker, what am I really trying to do? I'm really trying to capture
Yeah.
the human spirit. I'm trying to capture my heart. I'm trying to capture the heart of the stories I'm telling. And so I like to go right to the people and do that. But at the same time, I like to use the same actors over and over again. So once you're in my
You're
little group,
comfortable. Yeah.
because why too? Because I want to be on set with people that I love and that love me. Every time somebody new comes in, there's always that learning
Different.
process.
Gotcha.
But if I
Well,
know Stephen Michael Martin's on set with me, he's been in like four of my films, I can always go over and get a hug from Steve and everything's going to be okay.
gotcha. So tell me about your lead because he's fantastic.
Well, here's the funny story. He was, I guess, a big movie, I guess, for Warner Brothers at one point, like years back. I don't even
It's
remember the.
Christopher Michael Jones, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he was in some big hip hop dance movie where he played the bad guy. He was the lead bad guy in it. I forget what it's called now. Anyway, but he and his girlfriend would go to or hang out in the same dog park that I take my dog to. And they said, well, what do you do? I said, well, I make these little indie films. And what do you do? Well, I teach hip hop dance. He didn't tell me he was an actor because I hadn't acted in quite a long time at that point. And I said, well, I want to make this no wave film. And part of the rule of no wave is you have to make it with anyone that wants to be in the movie. So you want to be in a movie? And he's like, well, I used to do some acting. Yeah, I'll do it. And literally, that's how that happened. So I had to write the story. Again, the story is largely about things that happened to me in my first film, but also about their relationship, he and his girlfriend, who we call Tanya in the film. She was supposed to play Tanya. The woman that played Tanya in my movie starring Paul Dano is the makeup artist.
Okay.
Because 3 days before filming, Chris's girlfriend uh, decided she didn't want to do the role anymore. She had rehearsed it, she had memorized all the lines, and she wasn't ready to be in front of
She
camera.
flaked out?
Yes. So then I had 3 days, and so I turned to my friend Julia Hoffman,
Damn.
who runs sorry Julia Julie, who runs she's at Universal now in Las Vegas. She runs their special effects department. I said, Julia, you want to be in a movie? She'd never acted before, but she'd been on a million sets. And she said, I don't know how to act. I said, just read the lines like you would read them to me every day.
Yeah.
And she was amazing. She was great. That's a true story.
But she's got that onset experience though, right? Like you do? Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Julia,
Yeah.
she's done hundreds of films.
Yeah.
So she knew the entire thing backwards and forwards. But that is actually how she is in person. She's got that kind of quirky, fascinating cadence and body chemistry, body motion, and I knew she'd be great. And yeah, so that
All
happened.
right, so let me ask you a question. This is it's been I've been talking to a lot of people in the last couple of weeks about sound, obviously, right?
Yes,
And there's sometimes when there's a couple of feature film examples where they started with sound, they kind of worked with sound first, and then they thought about the visuals. Since
right,
if you go to your IMDb, you got hundreds of credits, right? So
right,
on-set sound, post sound. So
yeah,
obviously you're a sound guy, right?
yes.
I guess
Yeah.
that's the best way to describe it. Do you think about sound before you think about the visuals and the shots when you're making the film?
Here's the funny thing. The answer is no, not at
Yeah.
all. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because my nephew and two of my best friends are all sound mixers. So the nice thing is I just like put it off on them. No, I don't. One of the things like what I like to what I'm really trying to focus on is my weaknesses, not my strengths. So where my weakness as a director? What am I really trying to learn this
No,
time
it's
as a
more about from a storytelling stand, not from a
Oh, I
from a
see.
practical standpoint. Just from like you're seeing the end product, and you're like, what's going to be, what are we going to hear in the scene? What are we going to hear? What's the mood? What's the,
Interesting. I see where you're getting at. And I wish I had a really good answer for you, but I do all the sound effects as in post.
I'm
So
assuming you're doing the sound design of
yeah,
your
I do all
your
the sound effects and I do the score. I write the music for it as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Because I went to a Berklee College of Music. I was originally a record producer way back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, but so I am always aware of the music that is going to go into it. I'm always aware of the fact that everything has to have a sound effect, whether you hear it or not. So every step has a sound effect. Every glass that moves on a table has a sound effect. Every friggin' piece of cloth has a sound effect. And there are probably 2,000 sound effects in that film easily. You probably don't hear them all at this
Sure.
point,
Yeah.
but I put the effort forth. And then me and my mixer, Kevin Dippold, will eventually balance into the point where it makes sense. So I think that what you're really getting at is um, there is a general lack of attention to sound effects in indie film, which is a shame
Yeah.
because
100%.
especially if you look at the early films from the 70s when they didn't have the budgets and they just no sound effects many times. Um, right. So I work insane hours on getting sound effects correct. And then at the same time, I'm also thinking a lot about the music. There's a lot of music in here. I wrote over 60 cues of music for that film. I think most of them got in, you know, but you don't even notice it half the time because, because the idea of the music is it's supposed to support and bring out emotionally what's there. But there's 60 cues of music in that film. There's like 72 minutes of music at least, you know, in a 92-minute film.
So yeah, because it is like it's a great sound. It's like I didn't know like when I first watched it that this is what like, but it's like, oh, what a great sound design in the film, right? For like
Thank you.
this kind of indie film. And it's like,
Especially that part, the vocal part where we go into Dano's dream, right?
yeah.
Right. So
But
what
you're doing
happened
all
with
these
that?
shots, you're doing all these cuts, different styles, different, like you said,
Right.
16 millimeter lens, whatever. And it all kind of flows together, right? Like sound
Right.
wise.
Well, in Dano's dream, sorry, when Paul Dano comes to him in a dream, uh, I replaced the original dialogue that the actor had done. Somebody else, one of my friends, had redone the dialogue, and then I had to use the software to sync that dialogue to the lips and the screen, which is something we couldn't do before, but now we can. It's pretty amazing. And then I pitched it down lower. I lowered the pitch. I recorded a reverb track of it in reverse. I slid the reverb track over. So now we hear the reverb before we hear the voice. Like
Yeah.
there's all these kind of audio effects treatments that I do in the film that seem very natural and very simple, but actually take quite a lot of effort and work. But thank you for that because I'm very proud of that particular section. Also, all the, even that band, when when the music video part, that's pretty much all me playing all the instruments, except for the vibraphone and drum set. Well, actually, no, I did play the drums in that. So that's pretty much all me. And so those musicians were just actor friends of mine that were playing out the parts.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of characters in the film. Like,
Yeah, but getting back to the idea that if anyone wanted to be in the movie, they would be in the movie. So, so I had to write this film for a large ensemble, and uh, the whole film I made from the minute I started writing it to the minute we finished filming was 18 weeks and 2 days. So, but my wife will attest, I'm a bit of a crazy person. I don't stop working. Like I'm constantly making things. So I was just constantly writing and then rehearsing the scenes, getting their feedback from them, and then writing new scenes. There, in fact, Holly Rockwell, who plays Chris's mom, or Herman's mother in the film, at rehearsal said to me, I don't have any lines in this scene. I don't have any lines with my son. And I said, okay. So the next day we come to rehearsal. I have an entire scene where Molly's mom, Molly, complains to her son, I don't have any lines in this scene. I need more lines, Herman. And that was the entire scene based upon the last rehearsal. So like I was always trying to find these story threads. In the meantime, I had to arc it all together to make some kind of sense at the end. And that was a bit of a hat trick. So it was kind of fun, a lot of pressure. I think it was emotionally exhausting and mentally
sounds like it.
exhausting.
Even you're describing it. It's like,
Yeah, it was insane. It was insane.
so tell me
Um,
about the you lots of the I can see lots of handheld shots, lots of like quick kind of like long shots.
sure.
Uh, but it all flows because there's always movement. There's always something. You're either the actor's moving or you're moving or something's
Well,
happening, right?
yeah, and I think one of the things that really helped was my decision. I was going to make this movie whether I had $10,000 or any amount of money. Now, thank God, other people came through and knew I was struggling and helped me out. Um, But I realized that in mockumentary film, the cool part about mockumentary film is that you can introduce any character at any point for any reason and not explain why they're there. You can just
Yeah.
simply cut to an interview. Here is Herman's sister, right? And then bang, now she's in the story. That's a really cool part. And that allows for really creative editing and really creative writing because you're not responsible for having to explain everything. In a true narrative form, in a higher narrative form, which I also write, and I write, traditional classical narrative. Um, you can't do that. You have to explain why everything is there and why people actually meet. They just don't drop in the middle of a story.
Now it makes sense because there's all the boom shot's always in the shot, right?
That's
And it's like
true.
you're a sound guy. But
That's
if
right.
you watch
That's
these
right.
mockumentaries, the
That's
boom
part of
shot's
the
full,
joke.
but
Yeah.
it's never in the shot, right? Like,
Right. So, the boom in the shot joke was um because and we talked about it, like, should we do this? Should we not do that? I said, no, let's do it because I want when people because we are a low budget film and it's about people that really aren't very talented. The film is about filmmakers that aren't very good at
yeah.
it. And yet, and the reason why exposing that in that way by having the boom in the shot is because okay, well, now we know they kind of suck as filmmakers. What is it about that makes it so great? Because they have heart, because they need to believe in something. And right now, this is especially true in the arts and God, the whole world. We don't have anything left to believe in. We need something to believe in, even if it's just for a little while. The one of the characters says at the end, for a while there, we all believed. Doesn't matter if the film got made. Doesn't matter if we finish. Doesn't matter if it's any good. There was
Yeah.
a moment where everybody involved thought it could happen, that Paul Dano could show up. And that alone was worth it. And that's really the message of the film, I think, right? That's the part of the exuberance I'm really trying to get out as a filmmaker.
Did you ever consider it calling it Waiting for Paul Dano?
Waiting for Godot.
Yeah.
That's right. That would be great. I have Didi and Estragon, Vladimir, was it Vladimir and whatever his name? Didi and Estragon sitting there on the pile waiting for Godot.
Yeah,
Well, in a sense, isn't Paul Dano really waiting for God ultimately? Because I mean, like in many respects, because the reality is, as Mark Duplass said it better than I ever could, the Calvary is not coming for you. The Calvary is not coming for me. There is no one. There's no door that you're going to open. There's no golf course you're going to fall onto when someone's going to write you a big ass friggin' check because you're so talented. It's not coming.
yeah,
You have to save yourself.
yeah.
So, yeah, that was the whole point of Waiting for Godot. That's really the whole point of my movie starring Paul
Exactly.
Dano.
That's exactly it. You gotta
That's
like
right.
go out and
You
get it
can't
done,
sit
right?
around waiting for God. It's not going to happen.
Which is I find it ironic is that the one character she backed out. That's your third
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is crazy. It is really crazy.
Like that's
Um,
so crazy. Like someone did that at the last minute, and like someone who's emotionally attached to your lead too, right? He's gonna come
Yes. In
home
fact,
after the
she
day's
stuck
set. How'd
around.
it go?
She took a lot of set photos and things. She was very helpful. She was really
Oh,
great.
she
And I
she
really,
was around.
oh yeah, yeah. She just was just she. I never
You got
asked her why.
scared?
I never asked her. You know what? Because it's like it sometimes asking why isn't really worth it. Sometimes
You're
it's just better.
there's something really interesting about what you just said there because like there's no ego. You don't have an ego.
Well, thank you.
No, because most people would be pissed. Like, fuck you.
No,
You don't come to my
no, I
set.
wouldn't.
Why'd you do this?
No. I can't be. Because well, I'll tell you the reason why. Because first of all, one of the biggest things I worked on the Misfits for Paramount with Pierce Brosnan and Tim Roth. We shot that in Abu Dhabi. It was a $10 million film.
Yeah.
You know, it was just as fucked up a set as any shit show that I've been on in LA. It's just bigger mistakes. And having that experience taught me that you just gotta let things go. And in the end, the film is going to get made. The film
Mhm.
is going to get made. So you could stress all about it, or you could just let it go and find a solution out. And that's what you got to do. Um, and so that was the biggest lesson I learned working for the majors. So now when shit comes up, and shit comes up all the time in film, I can't let it
Oh,
stress me out.
yeah.
I have to just got to roll forward. I expect it. I have it built in to my emotional and my budget that shit's gonna go wrong. Like for instance, we lost 2 days of footage. We lost a day of footage in this one. In my first movie, we lost 2 days of footage. Two complete cameras, 2 days of footage. And yet, still, in the editing, I was able to put together a story. So the film is going to get out there. It's going to get made.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, yeah. I guess
Are you,
you're
are, are you a filmmaker, by the way?
I did back in the day. Yeah, I made a bunch of films and I worked in the industry as a on locations. So I worked on some pretty big films and I saw
Sure.
some pretty crazy experiences like how you're describing it, right? So like
Yeah, right.
yeah,
It's still a shit show. It doesn't matter what
no,
size it
everything's no matter what. Yeah, if you're working on, I remember because you're
That's
like you
right.
have to go, you're going back and forth when you're in your early 20s, right? You're working on these
Yeah,
big movies, like huge movies, right? And it's
yeah.
like because I'm in Toronto, so you're working like I worked on Undercover Brother, Driven,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Chicago, like all the you know what I mean, these $100 million movies, right? It's so much money, and then you go to the Independence Day and you're working on $400 films, right?
sure.
And it's the
Yeah,
same problems.
same problems.
It's the
Just
same
just bigger
egos, the
scale.
same
Right,
insecurities.
right,
It's just that there's more people and then they have more money to
right.
throw at it. And like to tie it back to what you said at the beginning is that sometimes when you have money to throw at it, that's a problem.
It
Sometimes
is.
because you're not thinking, you're not being creative.
No, you're
Right.
just throwing more and more money at it.
Yeah.
Right. I like the Blumhouse idea that in Blumhouse, at least it was for years. This is the set budget. You cannot break this budget. If you go over budget, we don't release the movie. We don't make the movie. That's
Yeah.
really how he did it. So if you as a film director, he gave you like, okay, here's $2 million, make your movie. If you go one penny over that, I'm not giving it to you. You either come up with it on your own or I shelve the film. Because he knew early on that film companies would try to solve problems by throwing more cash at it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't always work.
So the biggest thing I learned, and maybe you could maybe agree or disagree, is that it's always about the director. So meaning that if everybody believes in the director, it doesn't matter what department they're in, from transport on that, from whatever. If they believe in the director, then everybody's having a good experience. If
That's
there's
very true.
doubt, if there's doubt in the director, then everybody's
Right,
like, this is a shit show, and everybody starts complaining, and everybody's
right,
like, thinks they could do a better job than the director.
right. Absolutely correct. In fact, I've been on films where there are two directors.
Yeah.
Never once has it ever worked out. Never once, ever. Because
I'm sure the Coen brothers have done a good job though. So
well,
yeah.
one's a producer, one's a director. If you look at the credits,
I know, but they're both they say they both
that's
direct. So
true.
yeah.
And I'm sure, listen, there's always an outlier, but the outlier can very much be a problem and not.
Sure, yeah, because it's an example. It's like politicians do that. It's like, look at this. And you're
Right,
giving us a
right.
one in a million
But
example
but
to prove your
but
point.
the thing about the director, okay, this is a good point too. Like um, a seasoned director has a much easier time on a set, and the reason why is I think because new directors, even me, would rather do any job than direct. Once a new director gets on set, they find it very hard to focus on the monitor and focus on how the film's going. They want to take care of the talent's needs. They want to, shake hands. They want to go talk to the sound department. They want to run around and they're doing those things not because of an ego thing. I think it's because it's really fucking terrifying to be a director.
Yeah,
And if you have a skill set as a camera person or as a lighting person or as a sound person or as an actor, you
yeah.
would much rather be doing those roles, you know? So you're right. It all comes down to the director. If what I think has to happen is the cast and crew have to understand that the director has that weakness and to get away from him, keep away from him so he can focus. You know, don't hang out at the fucking monitor. Uh, the first AD has to be strong. The main job of the first AD is
Yeah.
keep the director focused, keep him on point. And then if I as a director can stay on point, all I have to do then is make 1.5 million decisions. They don't even have to be the right ones. They don't even have to be good ones. I
Yeah.
just have to decide something at that moment and then move forward. Right.
That's all it's being decisive. It's like you don't want to hum
Exactly.
and haw, right? So
Right.
and and it's a cliche, but it's true. It's like it's the only thing that matters is the monitor. That's all that
That's
matters.
it. That's all that
Nothing
matters.
else matters,
Staying
right?
focused. Right.
Nobody
I'm sure you've
cares
had this
about what happened
experience.
that day. Nobody cares like 3 months later when you're editing it. It's like this matter. They
Yes,
just care what's in the shot, right? So
that's exactly it. Staying focused on that part. And that comes with experience, comes with time. And I believe me, I'm still learning it. The thing I want to learn in my next film is really how to attach the lens to my heart. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm watching a lot of these films, the history of films like 30s, 40s, and 50s, so in Japan, especially in other countries. And these are made by people that never went to film school because there were no film schools,
yeah.
but they really had a way of looking through the lens right from their chest. You could feel it in the way they frame things. And I'm still learning how to do that. And I'm really excited about my next movie because that's my main focus. Because I think I've got the other things down pretty good where I feel comfortable. But this is an area I really want to focus on next in my next film.
Well, on that note, I'd love to talk to you about your next film.
Sure.
Because I think you're obviously you're a doer, so you're gonna make another film.
Yeah.
And I wish you the ultimate best success with this film. It was really great talking to you.
Yeah, it was
Really was,
really
yeah.
amazing. It was nice to talk to someone that knows film and loves film.
Yeah.
And especially a Canadian because it's so goddamn cold up there. God bless you guys. One of my friends worked on Earp, that show, the girl cowboy one. What's it called? Earp, Winona Earp.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
and they were shooting in like sub-zero weather
Yeah,
all the
but
freaking
they
time.
were I think they were shooting that probably because it's like a Western. They were shooting that in Calgary
It's
or like
freaking freezing,
Alberta.
dude.
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's like not like Minnesota is worse than
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Because I was like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. I just saw this
yeah.
photographs.
They
Well,
have
I'm
the
glad that you're
biggest
not
malls
quite the way.
in Alberta because nobody goes outside, right? That's how cold. So yeah, it's like the Mall of America in Minneapolis, right? So yeah.
All right. Well, please let me know when this airs. I want to share it with all my
All right,
friends.
let's talk when you make your next film. I appreciate your time.
All right. Bye bye.